Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about Jupiter in Cancer. So this is the transit so many of us have really been looking forward to, particularly as this arrives hot off the heels as we're still in recovery mode from Mars retrograde in Cancer. So from a technical standpoint, we've gone from astrological paper, the worst planet sign combination. So Mars, a malefic planet, retrograde in its sign of fall. So for many of us, that has brought up old issues, past memories, past upsets that have come up and out and required some form of healing or re-examining a little bit again. Now, Jupiter comes through as the planet that is our greater benefic, and in its sign of exaltation, that really does offer a beautiful, nurturing balm over some of those sore or tender spots that may have cropped up for you earlier in the year. So it's always wonderful astrology when we have a benefic planet such as Jupiter, because we have a longer influence of Jupiter than what we do Venus in a sign that it really performs well in. So that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video, give you an overview of what to expect and also a tour of the houses. So welcome if you're new. If you have seen my videos before, you might be noticing that the office looks a little bit different. I did move house last week, so I'm still in the process, excuse me, of settling in, unpacking, and you'll probably notice my setup will change as I decide, what I enjoy creating videos around for you. So in terms of promotions, updates, and things I've got going on. So the June Golden Circle was released to members a couple of days ago. So that's all the astrology of June in video format, in a group and a community where you're supported in navigating the astrology in advance. So there is a monthly overview video, videos of every week. So usually it's 5 videos at a minimum, guiding you through the astrology. So this is helpful just to navigate your life better with the stars. And it's also helpful if you are a student to astrology and you need support in sort of supercharging your astrological learning, want to get different and more in-depth delineations of astrological transits. And that's all in a supportive group and community, all delivered through an app. I'm moving into a first house perfection year very soon, and that's Mercury ruled. And of course, Uranus will be joining it too. So I have created a Substack account. I just did it earlier today. So if you would like to read more about astrology and just some random creative things inspired by the stars, I will share a link below to my Substack, and I would love it if you would subscribe to me over there. Of course, if you're watching this video and not subscribed to me here, that would be awesome too. Now, in July, just as Uranus moves into Gemini, I am going to be offering enrollments. Well, we'll be starting the course for year 2 of my contemporary astrology program. So, year 2 is all about predictive astrology. As a rule, I don't allow students into my program who haven't done year 1 with me. Nowadays, a lot of people do study all over the place and they pick up bits and pieces as they go along. And feedback I get often is that people just don't want to start at the beginning because they feel they don't have to. I'm doing something a little bit different because, hello, Uranus is coming into Gemini, and I am opening enrollment for people who have not studied with me before. So that is an option too. I've also created a specialized module that if you sort of know your way around a chart but would like to understand the basics better, I've created a group of classes that I've called the Advanced Basics. Reason why they're advanced basics is because it's just more than sign, planet, house aspect. We cover in-depth essential dignities, synodic cycles, lunar phases, and fixed stars. I really do feel that that is a more advanced but definitely solid basic astrology that will not only help you with your natal reading but also predictive work. So I've put those 16 classes together in a bundle that is available on my app. Special priced. So if you do want to have a look at that, there's a link below, and that might be something to consider and also brush up on some of those advanced basics before starting year 2 with me in July. So all that will be revealed real soon. I'm still in recovery mode from moving house. Okay, so let's get into Jupiter in Cancer. So, firstly, what I want you to do is think about the house topics that Cancer rules for you. That's going to be the energy or the area of life where the energy of Jupiter is going to be settling in for almost 13 months. So it moves into Cancer. Jupiter moves into Cancer June 9, June 10 for us here in Australia, and it will be there until June 30 of 2026. So what's a little different with Jupiter in Cancer is we get a full, solid bit over a year of it. So we don't have the issue that we had when we last had Jupiter in a helpful sign, which was Pisces. What was that, 2021, where it moved into Pisces, back into Aquarius, and then into Pisces. So we get a good dose of Jupiter in Cancer, which is certainly much needed, particularly after the Mars retrograde in Cancer cycle. So think about your house topic. That's an area that is going to expand, grow, and improve. Also think about when Jupiter was last there. So Jupiter was last in Cancer from June 2013 to July 2014. So again, another 12-month period where Jupiter did basically what it's about to do now and tour the sign of Cancer. So for me personally, the most obvious manifestation of that transit was I had a baby. So very, getting big and doing the Cancerian thing. I don't anticipate on doing that this time around. Please God, heaven forbid, I'm not in the frame of mind to do that, but I have no doubt I will be giving birth to certain projects, new experiences, and a new level of my identity as such because I am a Cancerian. So before we go into Jupiter and Cancer, let's reflect a little bit on where Jupiter has been in Gemini. So on paper, Jupiter in Gemini is classified as being in detriment. Now, that's just an astrological diagnosis. It isn't a moral judgment on what Jupiter in Gemini delivers. I do have Jupiter in Gemini, so I'm used to the messiness that it can bring. But let's just think about some of the collective situations that Jupiter and Gemini have brought. And so I've just been thinking about that and I jotted a few things down. One was money. So Mercury is a planet of money. Jupiter is, so that's Gemini. And then Jupiter is a planet of wealth. And so money has continued to inflate, has continued to be devalued, which you might expect with Jupiter in position of detriment. And one of the most, I guess, obvious things that people have been talking about is tariffs. And taxes in general. I mean, that's all a tariff is essentially. I know in Australia, and I'm sure it's happened in many other places on the planet too, there's just been these sneaky laws written into Parliament or Congress or what have you overnight while we're distracted, all these different things. So that's that sort of trickster quality of Gemini, Mercury, and Jupiter being laws, morals, ethics. It sometimes can be a little bit shady there. A lot of people have talked about social media fatigue and that we've reached kind of a peak in social media. And what does this new era look like astrologically with all these planets changing, AI coming through, and is even what we're seeing on the internet even human anymore? There's a lot of that issue as well. There's also been a lot of trickery and confusion around words, language, vocabulary, and just that wordplay, leading to inverted narratives, inverted morality, and anything means anything anymore, and you just got to get used to that. So that's kind of been the messiness of Jupiter. And the point being is that Jupiter is a planet above all of cohesion. It wants to sort of bring all things together and raise that tide. One of the probably easiest way I try and explain Jupiter, and I've probably said it here on YouTube before, is that if you've got a sore hip or shoulder, or you need a muscular stretch, you can put yourself into a yoga pose, and yes, it'll feel good. And yes, you might get that physical relief that stretching out a tight muscle might bring. But if you incorporate the breath, the mind, and sort of a meditative quality or a spiritual quality to the mind, body, and movement, you get more of a cohesive, well-rounded experience, and that's called yoga. So that's kind of what Jupiter can bring is this cohesive binding quality, but it binds things that are a little bit more on the unseen side as opposed to Venus, who is a planet that speaks to like the cohesion of the tangible or the everyday stuff. So, Jupiter's also a planet about our morals, our ethics, our philosophical and religious leanings, and probably the planet of meaning and purpose, first and foremost. That when you have meaning, when you have purpose, you can endure anyhow. And if you don't have those kind of things, well, you don't have that sort of enduring quality to it. Jupiter is also about travel, adventure, discovery, learning, all of those things that have the ability to expand us in some way. Now, that expansion can be literal, it can be metaphorical, but there is this sense that in some way, somehow, some shape, in some form, that we are all being invited to expand in some way as Jupiter moves through its place of exaltation. And so Cancer, it's our cardinal water sign, and the cardinal energy is super, super strong right now. So there is going to be potentially a high tide coming through in the area of your life that the moon rules, which is your Cancer house. And as a secondary consideration, you may also want to consider which house does the moon live in, because the ruler always trumps things. So that's something to consider that while the Jupiter is moving through Cancer, there's also a moon factor in play there as well. So Cancer is about families, it's about mothers, it's about children, it's about the sentimental, nurturing qualities of life. It's about our kin and clan, and that when Jupiter comes through and expands those qualities, we might feel more of a pull towards, I think, what's third on the hierarchy of needs after sort of food and shelter. It is the sense of belonging. And Jupiter in Cancer, everybody needs to belong to some kind of kin, some kind of clan, some kind of group or community. Now, that can be a family of origin, it can be a family of choice. So we might see some topics around family, kin, clan, land, that sort of stuff coming up really strongly. What is the motherland for people? Whether that is a literal thing, whether that is a spiritual home, or a chosen spiritual place. So, what does it mean to have a homeland or a home place as such, and seek to connect that? So, that might be the spiritual and religious component. So, emotions, feelings, mood is also going to be quite a thing, for want of a better word. Now, when Jupiter is exalted, we can expect that Jupiter's significance in Cancer is just going to get bigger. I would expect that, at least in some areas of the world, we will certainly see a boost in birth rates. I mean, I had my one and only child when Jupiter was last in Cancer. So we might see that there's a rise in birth rates, probably not everywhere, but certainly maybe a little bit higher on average overall. I'd suspect that we would see perhaps, unfortunately, the cost of housing having a home gets harder and harder, or higher and higher the price of it. But feeling safe, feeling secure, those emotional components may be increased during this transit. We're all a homing pigeon to somewhere. We may not know exactly where that is, but there might be a calling where you actually want to be, a place, a location. That home can be spiritual, metaphysical, or literal when Jupiter's in Cancer. So if you're in a place in your city, if you're in a place on the globe that you're not safe, you're not secure, you don't feel like it's your homing pigeon place, then you may feel that you need to move or travel or relocate. That can also speak to the emotional component of what home means as well. So if you're in a relationship, for instance, where it literally doesn't feel like home for you, that might mean that you have to go somewhere else, find something else, leave the relationship or what have you. Moving home, travel, going abroad, all of those sorts of things are going to be important. Intuition is going to be heightened, expanded, and prophecy, I think, is a real Jupiter in Cancer phenomena. I mean, it's not exclusive to Cancer, of course, but that sort of sense of women's intuition or women's knowing, or that idea of, women sort of, we may not be the most logical creatures, but often we kind of get it right. So there might be that component comes through stronger. Obviously, it's less logical than Jupiter in Gemini, but there's a certain logic from the feminine energy that does tend to get dismissed. And so that might peak, it might grow stronger, maybe collectively, but at least personally, you'll get a sense of what is really right for you and what is not, particularly if you did deal with that Mars in Cancer transit effectively. Healing. I mean, healing, self-care, nurturing is going to be a big component. I'm a little bit, I don't like using the term self-care because it's usually not about bubble baths and, I don't know, massages or what have you. It's usually about knowing what's right for you and honoring that. It's often what we say no to allows us to say yes to things that actually are more meaningful to us or hold more value to us. So this also might mean that there's a certain, don't want to go so far as to say a culmination of sorts, but Jupiter moving into Cancer is the square to when Jupiter and Pluto, or Saturn and Pluto, conjoined in Capricorn. And of course, Jupiter bolstered that. So there may be some healing, some turnaround, some morals and ethics coming in to the landscape from what happened in 2020 and some of the overreach, the choices that were thrust upon us. So yeah, that's, I think that will be very healing to some people who really copped the raw end of the deal in that situation. So, it might be also about what is self-care for you. It might be for some of us more cuddles and cups of tea. Maybe it's regular gym attendance, moving your body. Maybe it's time in nature. Maybe it's reading. Maybe it's time by the water, gardening, time with family, time building what security and comfort actually look like for you. And that usually comes from within. So, there's always a downside. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. So when something's exalted, it's raised up, it's elevated, it's inflated. And what goes up must come down. So I think there's also a cautious side to this, that there will be a tendency for a lot of people to want to overplay the Jupiter in Cancer transit. Yeah, it's a greater benefic. Yeah, it's exalted, and just think everything's going to be sunshine and roses. There can be a downside to Jupiter in Cancer, and that is a continual remunerating on the past. That's one of my favorite keywords for the negative side of Cancer is remunerating, constantly playing out scenarios, repeating scenarios, letting hurts from the past determine your future. So the sentimentality can also become expanded. And that's sort of the seeing the past as a golden age, or remember when, or how good was it then? And there's even political movements about that whole thing. Not saying that it's right or wrong or indifferent, it's just a great way of explaining how sometimes it's easier to look back on the past with a level of fondness that uh, may or may not have been really there, because the future is unknown, it's uncertain, and we've not experienced it yet. And Cancer is an energy that likes comfort, safety, security, familiarity. And so we can exalt the past because we have experienced it. We were comfortable. We know what it was, even if it wasn't the best thing for us. So those are a few ideas about Jupiter in Cancer, positive and a little bit of negative. You know, there's always the clingy Cancer energy that hangs on, doesn't let things go. And the energy of Cancer tends to spiral in on itself. The beauty with Jupiter potentially is that while the energy of Cancer can spiral in, Jupiter can help bolster the energy of Cancer and sort of bounce it back out from its shell, and get a little bit more of an adventure seeking version of Cancer. So, with that being said, let's get into the houses and to the horoscope energy so you can get a bit of a feel for what you can expect in your own birth chart and in your own life over the next 12 months. So, first up, we have Aries. And so, Jupiter from June 9 to June 10 is going to be going through your fourth house of home and family. So you can expect a lot of growth, potential benefit, and blessings around family, around your home life. This could be your family relationships. This could be an expansion of your family through children, through pets, through people visiting or staying in your home for an extended period. You know, it might be about family traveling from overseas, coming to stay with you. It could be your house just kind of expands in a way through a variety of reasons. It could be the taking on of a flatmate or a housemate. Um, it can also be about travel. Maybe you want to move your family overseas for a season. Maybe you want to upgrade your living situation, whether it's upgrades to your home, whether it is movement, you know, whatever it means, whatever family means to you, this is an area to, or an opportunity to reinvent that, particularly after it kind of got a little bit severed and cut up with Mars in Cancer. So, whatever was a bit touchy, itchy, scratchy earlier in the year, hopefully that's been dealt with. And those weeds from your past have been plucked up and it's out. And now you can nurture that soil and create a family environment, a living situation, or just your general domestic life from what you really want, what holds meaning for you, and a sense of purpose. Now, obviously, there's a lot of astrology happening in Aries. I'm not going to go into that and some of those square aspects. But for the most part, Jupiter is you want to be laying foundations that you. It's like creating traditions, and we often think about Saturn as that planet of tradition. But I think Jupiter in Cancer, if you want to bring in some new traditions, create new memories that 5 years from now you can say to yourself, "Remember when." It could also be beneficial if it's less of a family year for you. It could be where you see wealth or create wealth in real estate. Buying and selling things might go really well for you, particularly if you're involved in the property market. Buying, selling would generally be a good year for that. Now, if you are a Taurus or a Taurus rising, you know, you've had a long cycle now of Uranus in Taurus. And so, you know, you've learned to adapt, you've learned to change, you've learned to embrace authenticity. Now it might be a phase of learning to change your mind, to expand your mind in some ways, learn something new, develop your mind, develop your communication skills. The third house is also about the daily routines and rhythms of life. We all have to do certain things every single day, whether it's drive to work or get to certain places, the kind of radius of life. And this might be about finding a little bit of meaning in those everyday routines, extending a bit of charity to a neighbor, and it obviously doesn't have to be money, it can just be time, energy, attention. Expanding your local area. When was the last time you had a little staycation in your city or went to that restaurant across town you really heard about but never really explored before? So, this could be a really good year to just expand your local area. Could be to do with siblings, neighborhoods, your cousins could also come into this. More reading, more learning, even just whether it's a weekend workshop, whether it's an astrology course you've been wanting to do. Yes, I start in July. But there is this idea of whether it's your local area, whether it is your mind, there is going to be some travel or expansion taking place, but it's going to be maybe a stepping stone to something a little bit bigger or more meaningful down the track. So it may not be the most exciting of transits being the third house, but the third house is one of those sneaky houses where it reminds me of the John Lennon quote where life happens when you're busy making other plans. And so it is a little bit about, how they say don't sweat the small stuff, but this is more about expand on the small stuff, give it meaning, give it purpose, and you'll enjoy it a whole lot more. Gemini and Gemini rising. This is going to be a great transit for you to really not only bolster your finances, but also develop the self-confidence that you need in order to bolster your self-finance. I don't know if I still feel the self-worth is your net worth because I don't believe that one's bank balance has got any influence on their personal value. But you might find that belief is probably more important than confidence with this. So when you have a belief that there's always abundance, what this video is, 26 minutes in or something, and you think about the trillions of dollars that globally have been transacted, probably, I don't know, trillions, billions, hundreds of billions, whatever. How many dollars has been transacted throughout the planet in the last 26 minutes? Believing you can tap into some of that is your first step in being able to tap into some of that. So that is going to be a big thing. Belief in your skills, your talents, your abilities, expanding your vessel to receive. So this might be a secondary income stream. It might be raising your prices if you're self-employed. It might be getting a unexpected raise or income increase from your boss or changing jobs or doing something different. It might also be about spending more as well. Sometimes, as your income expands, so does your expenses. So do siphon a little bit away for a rainy day. Cancer does have the energy of being a little frugal when it chooses to be. So it is only a year transit, so you don't want to get to the end of June next year and go, where did all my money go? So there is a little bit of a double influence. Of course, see where the moon is in your birth chart, and that might give you a little bit of a clue or an insight into your best money-making opportunities in 2025 and into 2026. Now, if you're a Cancer rising, sometimes I think Jupiter in the first house via a transit, it's a relief because Jupiter's out of your 12th. That doesn't necessarily mean that Jupiter in your first is always that great. It's definitely better. It's definitely an elevation, but it can also be whenever planets come out of the 12th and into the first, it reminds me of the energy of when an indoor cat who's not used to being outside goes outside and they get out that door with anticipation and they kind of pounce and then they look around and they kind of, oh shit, like what now? What do I do? Where do I go? And it's the same as coming out of a 12th house perfection and into the first house. It's just great because you're not in the 12th anymore. And so that's what Jupiter in the first might mean for you this year. So now what? How do I grow? What are my personal philosophies? How do I want to expand in meaningful ways? How do I take advantage of opportunities that feel right for me? How do I, you know, get out of my shell, become more expansive, become more optimistic, see opportunities where I would normally see problems or see opportunities when I would normally say no, or if I'm too shy, or, you know, Cancer sidesteps situations and issues and problems. And sidestepping just kind of keeps you on the linear plane. Jupiter's going to kind of push or encourage you to go big or go home, essentially. Go home, maybe that would be your preference, but it is a journey or a year of self-discovery more than anything else. Watch your waistline. Jupiter moving through the 12, sorry, the first house is rarely a good time to try and lose weight. Um, so do be aware of that. I mean, you can try, but it may not be terribly successful. Of course, the expansion of the waistline could be due to impending motherhood. Or if you're a man, sometimes men do go through the sympathetic pregnancy and they can put on a few kilos along with the lady in their life. Alrighty, so Leo and Leo rising. So this is going to be a year of self-discovery of a different kind, and it's going to be more of the recesses of your subconscious. It might be through meditation, time alone, isolation is where your real growth and opportunities will lie. Keep in mind that Leo, we'll be talking about you in 12 months from now. And so this is a time to really perhaps recharge your batteries, recenter yourself, maybe go out into that proverbial wilderness for a season. And that could look like a sabbatical, a hiatus, more time alone, whether that is a weekends away, whether that is time offline or off grid in some fashion. Spirituality will be really important to you for the next 12 months. It's a kind of spirituality that comes through isolation as opposed to, other forms. It could also be a year where you're just less bright than usual. But that doesn't mean that there's nothing happening. It's all that inner growth that will really kind of draw back the arrow for you in 2026, where you'll choose opportunities that are right for you, that are aligned for you, rather than just saying yes because it's an opportunity. So just because it's your 12th house, I wouldn't necessarily think it's a bad thing. It's not always the most pleasant, but it's certainly got its meaning and purpose with Jupiter. Sometimes I see planets move through the 12th, particularly a planet that is about travel, like Jupiter is, a little bit like travel. That's a tour of duty as opposed to sunshine and cocktails in a resort somewhere. So a tour of duty might be a spiritual pilgrimage that's really difficult. So not going to a spiritual pilgrimage just because it's something you've always wanted to do as a holiday with meaning, but more, so a lot of people that I know, quite a few people that I know, they're in various parts of South America doing ayahuasca retreats and trainings and shaman trainings. And this is sort of purging all of that unconscious out so they can then be like a conduit of healing for others. You may not necessarily want to do that per se. Another image that's coming to mind, if you want to master something, you might have to go through a period of hardship or isolation in order to do that. And that's the attainment of wisdom, of spirituality, of knowledge that you can gain this year. So You might see a lot of growth and a lot of progress, but it's very internal as a part, as opposed to the external. Now, if you are Virgo or Virgo rising, this is a double luck year for you. The 11th house is known as the house of luck, good fortune, uh, pennies from heaven, or good spirit, technically, but it's also a good house for just general fortune, luck, opportunity. And so this year is going to be a period of time where you really want to align yourself with those who can open doors for you, those who can give you or offer you opportunities. You might also be the person who's in a position to offer opportunities to other people. You might feel more charitable this year and you might want to get involved with a charity, an organization, a cause of some description that really moves you or you feel called to. If you want to develop an online presence or develop a group of or a community, whether that's online or in real life, this is a great year to do it. The 11th house is your groups, your friends, your networks, your communities. So, whether you're wanting to do it online or in real life or a combination of the two, this is a really great year to be much more active and proactive and really expand a little bit bigger, a little bit more than what you think you have to in order to, grow your audience, so to speak. Friendships at a personal level could also feel really good this year. Jupiter is in Cancer after all, and you might just find that luck, opportunity sort of comes out of the blue, like lands in your lap, and where did that come from? So it is a good year to make hay, as they say. Now, if you are a Libra or a Libra rising, this is where your career, your professional life, and your general reputation out there in the world can really expand, really grow. If you've been sort of grinding it out with Mars in Cancer earlier in the year, if opportunities have felt harder to come by, you might start to get the payoff with Jupiter in Cancer, whether that is if you're self-employed, the clients, the people, the opportunities, the contracts, the all of that stuff might start coming through. If you work for somebody else, you might start to get the rewards and the recognition that you've worked so hard for. Keep in mind that Jupiter only moves through your 10th house, which is the crown of the chart, only every decade, more than a decade. So chances are you could have lived your entire 30s, for instance, without having a Jupiter in Cancer transit. So this is a really important year for you to kind of, again, it's one wherever Jupiter goes through the angles, it is a bit of a go hard or go home year. And for some people, it might also be about turning away from a job or a role that no longer holds meaning for you. Um, and I think with Cancer on the midheaven, it's not always just about the paycheck or the salary for you. It's about feeling appreciated. It's about feeling that what you have to offer has meaning as opposed to just showing up, clocking on, clocking off. This may also be an opportunity to really showcase all your experience, your gifts, and your talents this year. So it is a bit of a visibility phase as well. The big planet in at the top of your chart, be visible. I also can see this a little bit as a marriage signature too, because in some of the traditional writings, the 10th house can be a change in your public reputation. So that can often mean becoming a Mrs. or Mr. Well, Misters don't really change their names, but traditionally women change their names. So this can be you become someone's wife, or you could become someone's ex-wife. And of course, that could go the same for husbands as well. It's also possibly a signature of motherhood as well, because you're not just, whomever, you will be someone else's mum. And so you just might be known as something as you weren't known before. For mums out there, you might know this experience. And Jupiter was actually, maybe Jupiter was in my, no, I don't think it, maybe it was in one of my angles. Maybe it was Jupiter and Sag, but I remember being shopping at Woolies, which is a grocery shop here in Australia, and I could hear, "Oh, that's Lincoln's mum," and I'm like, "Ah, yeah, I'm Cassandra," but I was only known as someone else's mum. So again, it's just going to symbolize this change to your reputation, what you're known for, or whom you're known as. Now, Scorpio, I love this one for you if you're Scorpio rising, because this is really the world is your oyster. The horizons, the vistas are wide. And this is about finding home abroad. It's about finding home in spirituality, metaphysics, astrology, religion, faith, philosophy. This is a bit contradicted to the energy of what Cancer brings. Cancer isn't really, I mean, not saying that it's not possible. I love travel as much as the next person, but I also love being at home. So Cancer is, as I said, it's one of those signs that spirals in on itself and spirals, its home is its shell. So it doesn't really get up and out there. Jupiter's going to expand all that the ninth house means for you. So it could be, the overseas travel, academia, studying, just being a little bit of a vagabond, whether that's literally or metaphorically. It's about casting your net really wide, being open to any and all opportunities for adventure, for discovery, for learning, for faith and wisdom that's really felt and really, really profound. So, this might be a year where you do feel a little bit, that nomadic, vagabond like. You're booking your next ticket to some place, or you're booking your next course or workshop or webinar sign up. It's just this hunger for experience, literal, metaphorical, or both. I love a good ninth house transit. I love a third house transit as well. They're kind of two of my favorite houses. But this is such a the world is your oyster. Say yes and maybe consider your bank balance after the fact. But if you can afford it, if you can do it, say yes to opportunities because this is, I don't want to call it the year of living dangerously. It's create a year that you will remember that you go, oh yes, that year I was whatever age I was. Oh yeah, that was when Jupiter was in Cancer. You can tell stories about the year that you have years to come. So it is just say yes to life, and life will say yes to you. Now, while that sounds so super exciting, and if you're sitting there thinking to yourself, yeah, but Cass, that's not possible for me. One thing I would sort of consider is the reframe or the rephrase. Now, the ninth house is so potent. I mean, all of our astrology is potent, but the ninth house is one place I often look to when people do want meaning and purpose. And one of the questions I get asked often is, you know, you hear it a lot, what do you want out of life? And maybe the reframe is, what does life want out of you? And you're not going to find out what that is until you go out there and live some life. So that's what I mean about maybe not living dangerously, but the danger might be cracking open your own shell, saying yes to opportunities where the road will really rise up to meet you. So I'm excited for you if you're a Scorpio or a Scorpio rising. Now, Sag, this is a money transit. So the eighth house does tend to mean the more longer term money situation. So it's not so much cash flow and income, it's more about your debts, your savings, your investments, your joint resources, whether those resources are with the bank and the money that you owe, whether those joint resources are with your partner, either in business, in life, or both. So it's really about the entanglements we share with other people. They can be financial, energetic, spiritual, physical, sexual, all of the things. So this is also a year to really open up that Pandora's box in a sense and look at the emotional parts of yourself that really are holding you back from everything you want and everything that you could be. Jupiter is your ruler, and it's going to spend a year in your eighth house, which is a part of life that Jupiter doesn't support you. So this is not so much about adventure and wide horizons and excitement. It's more about growing from the inside out this year. So being a little bit more acutely aware of the exchanges you're sharing with others. Um, on the practical level, Jupiter in the eighth house can make it a little bit easier to expand your debt. So whether you want to, remortgage your home, get a bigger mortgage, better home, maybe you realize, yep, I'm going to spend this year paying off my credit card or whatever it is around debt. Maybe there's a tax bill that lands. Maybe there is a lucky windfall of some kind. Maybe you are the lucky recipient of somebody else's good fortune. That could be maybe your partner gets a bonus or an increase in their income. And you get to share that. You could be the recipient of a inheritance or somebody's will. That sort of bittersweetness of someone passing, but they leave you a gift or a legacy that can really change your financial fortunes. So it can go both ways with Jupiter in the eighth house, but this can also be a really great year for expanding on some of the parts of life that you might deny or not want to look at very much. So that could be some things to do with your own inner psychology, psyche, and your makeup as well. And I don't mean cosmetics. Capricorn, relationships. So relationships, a very simple one for you. Personal, so your one-on-ones, your clients, and just other people in general. So sometimes it can be an expansion of the nature of relating, where the road rises up to bless you in terms of relationships. Things get easier, more blessed, more expansive, and just generally all around better. But it can also mean that someone who has some wisdom, that has been around the block once or twice, comes into your life and, dare I say, puts the wind beneath your wings, so to speak. Or maybe a better analogy for Jupiter in Cancer is that they come in, that your ship comes in, but not financially, but someone who has some knowledge, some experience or wisdom in what you need, and they come along and they help you, they provide a solution. This could be an accountant, this could be a lawyer that gets you out of a difficult situation, maybe from earlier this year. This can be a teacher, a mentor, a guide, someone who can just come into your sphere, elevate you, prop you up, help you with what you need to learn with, help you with what you need to grow in, and just generally raise your boat. That can be, of course, a romantic situation. You might find a person comes into your life for the next 12 months and can be amazing experience for you. You might find it's just a blessed time if you are already married or in a long-term relationship. So relationships are going to be an area where you want to grow, expand, and work on becoming a little bit more emotionally open um, with or in. There's also a lot of energy in your fourth house, so the dynamics around family relationships are going to become increasingly important as well. Now, if you're Aquarius or Aquarius rising, this is your sixth house. So this is a little bit of a bust. Um, you might be hearing about how great this Jupiter and Cancer situation is, and it's a good transit. But when it's your sixth house, it can just mean that the daily grind of life also gets bigger, can also become more meaningful. So we all have things in life we have to do that keep the lights on. We none of us avoid these things. But this might help you find more joy, more benevolence, or more blessing in just doing what you have to do, a more positive or optimistic attitude. You might find yourself in having the ability to care for somebody that might be sick, a sick relative, a sick friend, or this might become part of your job in the healing modalities, whether it's pets or animals, or whether it's nursing children or elderly people, that caring mentorship role. If there is a health issue, it might call your attention, and you have to focus and really expand on the healing, the care, and sort of not burning the candle at both ends as well. So it might be a really busy year. Sometimes you might have a year where there's an energy of an internship, where you might have to go back and do some training or update your skills in some way. So next year, when Jupiter moves into Leo, you're better positioned to take advantage of the opportunities because you took a little sidestep, that crab Cancer sidestep this year in order to, whether it's a pay cut, extra hours at work, or kind of earning your stripes in some way so you can benefit down the track. So you may not see a lot of benefit from the extra work you do this year, but it will pay off. Now, if you are Pisces, this is one of the really nice transits as well, like it was for Virgo. So Jupiter in your fifth house is fun, joy, frivolity, some healthy risk taking, and just making joy and pleasure as much as a priority as you would anything to do with your work, anything that you would, for any other obligation or task that you have in life. We might make appointments for our hair, your nails, if you get those done, or going to the doctor, or doing these sort of more mundane or routine tasks. But do you schedule catch-ups with your friends, quality time with your children, date nights, booking those concert tickets, booking those tickets to whatever, the football, whatever? Do you prioritize those things as much as you do the other parts of life, or do they just kind of fit in wherever it happens? So this is a great year for romance, for fun, for children. If you are of a childbearing age, be aware. If you want to open that window, go for it. It'll probably be quite a successful year for you. If you don't want to open that window of fertility, do whatever is required or whatever is comfortable for you to minimize the risk factor there. Because Jupiter in the fifth house, particularly in Cancer is an extremely fecund and fertile placement. So baby making is a thing. Of course, this could also be about creative projects, giving birth to creative projects. That could be art, it could be music, it could be sport, it could be just having younger people in your life, whether they're your children or somebody else's. You might find yourself in a position where you're mentoring younger people. Traditionally, Jupiter rules your sign. In the fifth house, younger people will likely be a focus, whether you're taking on educating children, guiding children, mentoring children, being their auntie, maybe you're being their coach in some way, shape, or form. And it doesn't matter about the age. You could be 30 and someone who's 40 comes into your life, and you can still be some kind of guide or mentor for them personally, possibly even professionally. So there we have it, everyone. There is hopefully a relatively comprehensive look at what you can expect with Jupiter in Cancer. It's going to be an exciting year for a good majority of us. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, please subscribe, leave me a comment, share with an astrology friend, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.